The Galactic Council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a giant jewel. Inside, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in their designated sections. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few were made of pure energy that shimmered in contained fields. The chamber was enormous, with curved walls that displayed the stars outside. At the center stood a circular platform where speakers addressed the assembly. Ambassador Jiwoo Kim adjusted his formal jacket and looked around the chamber. He had been Earth's representative for 2 years now, and he still found these meetings exhausting. Not because of the language barriers or the strange customs of alien races. No. It was the endless lies that wore him down. Next to him sat Captain Haejin Park, his military attaché and oldest friend. She wore her uniform with pride, though her hand rested casually near her sidearm. Old habits from her days commanding Marines never quite left her. Another day, another performance, Haejin whispered to him in Korean, knowing the translation matrix wouldn't broadcast private conversations spoken below a certain volume. Jiwoo nodded slightly. They were here to discuss the Quelon situation. The Quelon were a young species, barely 100 years into space travel. Their home system was rich in minerals that the galaxy desperately needed. 6 months ago, the Council had placed a trade embargo on them, officially to protect them from being exploited by aggressive merchants. In reality, everyone knew the truth. The elder races wanted those minerals, and they wanted the Quelon desperate enough to accept whatever terms were offered. High Chancellor Mirsol materialized at the central podium, the energy being pulsed with soft blue light as it spoke. We gather today to review the Quelon Protection Initiative. Let us hear from our distinguished members. Councillor Vextar rose first. The insectoid clicked his mandibles together before speaking. His forearms gestured dramatically. The Chetan Dominion has always stood for the protection of developing worlds. We must continue the embargo to shield the innocent Quelon from predatory trade practices. However, we are prepared to offer them a generous trade agreement. One that would allow us to manage their resources for their own benefit. We would take only a small administrative fee, perhaps 70% of the profits. Jiwoo felt his jaw tighten. 70%. They called that protection. Other counselors spoke in turn. Ambassador Daeho Choi, representing the Thalaxian Empire, offered a similar deal. 65% profit share. Councillor Thexra of the Luminar Collective promised technological aid in exchange for exclusive mining rights for 2 centuries. Each speech was wrapped in beautiful words about cooperation and mutual benefit. Each one was designed to trap the Quelon in permanent debt and dependence. This was how the galaxy worked. The elder races had perfected this system over thousands of years. They never conquered with weapons anymore. They conquered with contracts and embargoes and diplomatic pressure. It was cleaner and more permanent than war. Jiwoo glanced at the viewing screen on his datapad. It showed the waiting area outside the council chamber. The Quelon delegation sat there. 3 adults and 1 child. They had been waiting for 2 days now, hoping to address the council directly. The child looked thin. Jiwoo had read the reports. Food shipments to the Quelon homeworld had been blocked as part of the embargo. Starvation was becoming common. Ambassador Kim, does Earth have a position on this matter? High Chancellor Mersol's voice pulled him back to the moment. Jiwoo stood. Every eye and sensory organ in the chamber turned toward him. Humans were still new here, still learning the rules of the game. Most elder races expected him to make some minor statement and sit down. Earth recognizes the complexity of this situation, he began, using the standard diplomatic formula. We understand the Council's concerns about protecting younger species from exploitation. Haejin shifted beside him. She knew him well enough to hear something different in his tone. However, Jiwoo continued, Earth would like to review the specific terms being proposed to ensure they align with the spirit of protection. A ripple of annoyance moved through the chamber. Councillor Vextar's antennae twitched. Ambassador Kim, surely you understand that we elder races have managed such situations for millennia. The terms are standard and fair. Standard. That was the word that made Jiwoo's blood boil. Standard exploitation. Standard theft, dressed up in legal language. He sat down without pushing further. Not yet. The debate continued for 3 more hours. It was the same cycle repeated endlessly. Each counselor praised their own generosity, while ensuring the Quelon would have no real choice. Finally, High Chancellor Mirsal announced they would adjourn for the day and reconvene tomorrow. The Quelon delegation would have to wait. As the chamber emptied, Jiwoo remained seated. Heijin stayed with him. "You're thinking about doing something stupid," she said quietly. "Is it stupid to tell the truth? In this place?" "Yes. Absolutely." Heijin pulled up her own datapad and showed him a file. "I've been digging through council records. This exact same pattern has been used on 14 other species in the last 200 years. Every single one of them is now effectively controlled by elder race corporations. They're not really independent anymore." Jiwoo took the pad and scrolled through the data. The evidence was clear and damning. The Council's protection programs were just slavery with better paperwork. "We were almost next," Heijin added. "When Earth applied for Council membership, they tried to put us through a probationary period with similar restrictions. You know what saved us? We said no." "We said no," she confirmed. "We didn't understand the game they were playing, so we just refused to participate. They backed down because they didn't know how to handle that. But the Quelon don't have that option now. They're already caught in the trap." Jiwoo looked at the viewing screen again. The Quelon family was still there, waiting. The child had fallen asleep against their parent, small body curled up tight. "I'm going to request speaking time tomorrow," he said. "Jiwoo, they'll destroy you. They'll make an example of Earth. We're not strong enough to stand against the entire council." "Maybe not. But I can't sit here and watch this happen. Not when I know the truth." He stood and gathered his materials. "Our ancestors faced impossible odds before. They didn't always win, but they always stood up when it mattered. I won't be the human who stayed quiet." Heijin sighed deeply. "You're definitely going to do something stupid. Probably. Then I'll make sure you have the best data possible. If you're going to burn bridges, at least burn them with facts." She managed a slight smile. "Besides, stupid or not, it's the right thing to do." They left the chamber together, walking past the Quelon delegation. The child stirred and looked up at Jiwoo with large, hopeful eyes. In that moment, his decision became absolute. Tomorrow, he would speak the truth. Whatever the consequences, they would be better than the alternative of silence. The second day of debate began exactly like the first. High Chancellor Mirsal called the session to order, and immediately, the same voices started saying the same things with different words. Jiwoo sat in the human delegation section and listened to hour after hour of carefully crafted deception. Counselor Thexra spoke at length about the Luminar Collective's commitment to education. They would build schools on Quelon worlds and teach the young species everything they needed to know. In exchange, they wanted control of the education curriculum and exclusive rights to recruit the brightest students for work in Luminar corporations. It was brain drain, disguised as charity. Behind him, Jiwoo heard Ambassador Sunmi Han shift nervously in her seat. Sunmi was young, only 28, and this was her first major council session. She had studied diplomacy at the best schools on Earth, learned all the rules and protocols. Now, she was watching those rules being used as weapons. "Ambassador Kim," she whispered urgently, leaning forward. "I've been monitoring the back channels. There are at least 20 private deals being negotiated right now. They're dividing up the Quelon system like it's already theirs." Jiwoo nodded without turning around. "Are they at least pretending to care about the Quelon people? Not even a little bit." One message I intercepted literally called them convenient primitives. Sunmi's voice carried barely contained anger. "Sir, I know what you're planning. Please reconsider." If you expose this, Earth will pay the price. Earth can handle it. Can we? We're 3 years old, in council terms. We don't have allies. We don't have trade agreements that don't include escape clauses the elder races wrote for themselves. Sunmi paused. I believe in what to do. But belief doesn't stop economic sanctions or military pressure. Before Ji Woo could respond, his earpiece chimed with an incoming secure message. It was from Director Kyungmin Baek, head of Earth's Intelligence Division. The man's voice was calm but serious. Ambassador Kim, I'm seeing unusual activity in your biometrics. Your stress levels have been elevated for 18 hours. Should I be concerned? Just tired, Director. Ji-woo replied quietly. I've known you for 12 years. You don't get tired. You get determined. That's when you do your most dangerous work. Kyungmin paused. Whatever you're planning, make sure Earth can survive it. Our colonies are vulnerable. Our trade routes depend on council protection. Think about more than just principles. The connection ended. Ji-woo understood the unspoken message. Don't be a hero if it makes everyone else a victim. Captain Heejin Park sat beside him, reading through data on her pad. She had spent the entire night compiling evidence. Transaction records, communication logs, historical patterns. Everything that proved the Council's protection program was actually a systematic exploitation scheme. I found something interesting, Heejin said, showing him a document. 230 years ago, a species called the Korthan tried to expose this exact same system. Their ambassador gave a speech very similar to what I think you want to say. What happened to them? The Korthan civilization collapsed within 5 years. Economic isolation, trade embargo, mysterious technical failures in their infrastructure. Nothing that could be traced directly to the Council, but the pattern is obvious. Heejin met his eyes. They were right, and it destroyed them. At the central podium, Ambassador Daeho Choi was speaking now. The Thalaxian serpentine body coiled elegantly as he gestured. My people understand the burden of leadership. We have guided 17 species to prosperity. The Quelon could be the 18th. All we ask is their trust and their resources. Is that truly so much? Yes, Ji-woo thought. Yes, it is everything. The viewing screen on his pad still showed the waiting area. The Quelon delegation had been there for 3 days now. The child looked worse than yesterday. Medical sensors would have detected it by now. But no one had offered assistance. That was part of the pressure strategy. Let them see their own people suffering. Make them desperate enough to accept any terms. Councillor Drex Val of the Craner hegemony rose to speak. The warrior species rarely participated in these debates, preferring direct conflict to political maneuvering. But even Drex Val played the game. The Craner do not deal in pretty words. We offer the Quelon a simple choice. Accept our protection and live, or face the chaos of unregulated space alone. We have the military strength to enforce stability in their region. Others do not. It was a threat wrapped in an offer. Accept our terms, or we'll allow pirates and raiders to destroy you. The debate continued until midday, when High Chancellor Mirsol called for a recess. Councillors stood and moved to private meeting rooms where the real negotiations happened. Ji-woo watched them go. These representatives of ancient civilizations who had perfected the art of exploitation. Sunmi appeared at his shoulder. Sir, I need to show you something. She led him to a private booth, designed to block all external surveillance. Once inside, she activated a holo display. This is a communication I intercepted 1 hour ago. It's between Vex Tar and Thexra. The recording played. Vex Tar's clicking voice was unmistakable. The Quelon will break by tomorrow. Their food reserves are nearly exhausted. Once they accept any agreement, we can modify the terms during implementation. Standard procedure. Thexra's crystalline voice responded. Agreed. The human is showing concerning interest, however. Should we apply pressure to Earth? Not yet. Let Kim watch and learn how the galaxy truly operates. If he interferes, then we educate his entire species about the cost of idealism. The recording ended. Sunmi looked at Jiwoo with fear in her eyes. They're watching you. They know you're upset about this. And they're ready to punish all of humanity if you act. Jiwoo sat down heavily. The weight of what he wanted to do pressed on him like physical force. He could speak the truth and possibly doom his species to the same fate as the Korthan. Or he could stay silent and watch the Quellan be devoured by this system of beautiful lies. His earpiece chimed again. This time, it was Fleet Admiral Yuna Song, calling from Earth's Orbital Defense Network. Ambassador, I've been ordered to inform you that all Earth military assets are at normal readiness. However, if there's going to be trouble, I need advance warning to prepare defenses. Do you have anything to tell me? How many people would suffer if he followed his conscience? Earth's colonies housed millions. The trade agreements, however unfair, kept food and medicine flowing. Breaking with the Council could mean starvation and death for humans who trusted him to protect their interests. But the Quellan child's face haunted him. That trust in those large eyes, that hope that someone, somewhere, would help. Admiral Song, Jiwoo said carefully, maintain normal operations. If I need you, I'll send a code word. Until then, assume everything is fine. Understood. But Ambassador, whatever you're considering, remember that courage without wisdom is just suicide. The connection ended. Heijin placed a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to do this. We can file a formal protest. Work through proper channels. Build a coalition over time. There are other ways. Other ways that take years while the Quellan starve? Other ways that let the elder races set up their exploitation so deeply it can never be removed? Jiwoo shook his head. I've spent 2 years watching this council destroy civilizations with contracts and smiles. I can't do it anymore. Then let me stand with you. Whatever happens, Earth's military stands with its diplomats. Jiwoo managed a slight smile. That's exactly why I can't ask you to do this. Someone needs to survive to pick up the pieces. The recess ended. Councilors returned to their seats. High Chancellor Mirsal announced that the Quellan delegation would finally be permitted to address the council in 1 hour. First, however, remaining councilors would have their opportunity to speak. Jiwoo stood and raised his hand. High Chancellor, Earth requests time to address the assembly. The chamber fell quiet for a moment. Then Mirsal's energy form pulsed once. The human ambassador is recognized. Please approach the central podium. This was it. The moment where everything would change. Jiwoo walked toward the center of the chamber, feeling the eyes of 47 species watching him. Behind him, he heard Sunmi whisper a prayer in Korean. Beside him, Heijin stood at attention, ready to face whatever came next. The truth was about to be spoken. The galaxy would never be the same. Jiwoo stood at the central podium and looked out at the assembled representatives of the galaxy. The chamber's translation matrix hummed softly, ready to convert his words into every language and thought pattern present. He had prepared no formal speech. What he needed to say required no preparation, only courage. Thank you, High Chancellor, he began. His voice echoed through the vast space. I will not take much of the Council's time. I have only simple truths to share. Several councilors shifted in their seats. The word truth in a council session was unusual. Diplomats typically spoke of perspectives, positions, and possibilities. Never something as direct as truth. For 3 days, we have discussed how to protect the Quellan species. I have heard many beautiful speeches about cooperation and mutual benefit, but I have not heard anyone speak honestly about what is actually happening. Jiwoo paused. So I will. Councillor Vextar's antennae twitched forward. Ambassador Kim, perhaps you should familiarize yourself with proper council protocols before making accusations. I make no accusations. Jiwoo replied calmly. I simply state facts. The trade embargo placed on the Quellan system is not protecting them. It is starving them. Food shipments are blocked. Medical supplies are restricted. Their people are dying while we debate how to divide their resources among ourselves. A murmur rippled through the chamber. High Chancellor Mirsal's energy form flickered. Ambassador, you speak of complex matters with insufficient understanding. Do I? Jiwoo activated his datapad. The chamber's main display screens lit up with information. These are the official council reports on resource flow to the Quellan system. 6 months ago, before the embargo, they received adequate supplies. Today, they receive nothing. Starvation has increased by 400%. Child mortality is up 600%. Heijin had provided him with devastating evidence. Now he used it. You all speak of protecting young species from predatory merchants, but you are the predators. Jiwoo, let that statement hang in the air. Every trade agreement offered to the Quellan is designed to trap them in permanent debt. Councillor Vextar offered to manage their resources for a 70% administration fee. Ambassador Daeho Choi proposed exclusive mining rights for 2 centuries. Councillor Thexra wants control of their education system. The screens changed, showing historical data. This is not new. My staff has documented 14 other species who went through this exact process. The Korthan, the Velix, the Thun, all of them accepted council protection agreements. All of them are now effectively controlled by elder race corporations. They have governments, but those governments have no real power. They have economies, but those economies serve foreign interests. Councillor Drexval of the Cranor hegemony actually laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. The human pup shows teeth. Amusing. Tell me, Ambassador Kim, does Earth presume to judge civilizations that existed for millennia before your species discovered fire? I judge actions, not age, Jiwoo responded. And these actions are wrong. Wrong? Thexra's crystalline voice rang with mockery. You speak of morality in a council chamber? How naive. The galaxy operates on power and interest, not childish concepts of right and wrong. And in 5. 2 Ham. And in tolls. Then perhaps that is why the galaxy is broken. Jiwoo changed the display again. This time, it showed communication logs. These are messages exchanged between counselors over the past 3 days. Messages where you discuss the Quellan as convenient primitives. Where you calculate how long until their desperation makes them accept any terms. Where you plan to modify agreements after they are signed to extract even more profit. The chamber erupted. Half the counselors shouted in outrage, not at the behavior exposed, but at the breach of protocol. The other half sat in stunned silence, their secrets displayed for all to see. You have no right. Vextar stood, all 4 arms gesturing furiously. Those were private diplomatic communications. This is a violation of council rules. Yes, Jiwoo agreed. I have broken council rules. I have exposed your private conversations. I have spoken directly instead of hiding behind diplomatic language. I have done all of this because your rules exist to protect exploitation, not to promote justice. High Chancellor Mirsal's form pulsed with bright, angry light. Ambassador Kim, you go too far. Earth is a young member of this council. You do not understand the complexities of managing a galactic civilization. I understand enough, Jiwoo said. I understand that powerful species are using their influence to enslave weaker ones. I understand that the Council's protection programs are just theft with paperwork. I understand that you maintain this system because it benefits you, regardless of the suffering it causes. Fleet Admiral Yuna Song's voice suddenly crackled in his earpiece, broadcasting on an emergency channel that every delegation could hear. This is Earth Defense Command. Be advised that all human military assets are now at full alert status. Any action taken against Ambassador Kim or Earth interests will be considered an act of war. Jiwoo hadn't requested that support, but he felt grateful for it nonetheless. Yuna was showing the galaxy that humanity would not back down. Ambassador Ji-hoon Lee stood in the section reserved for the neutral Pax Concordia. The elderly diplomat species was known for honesty and fairness. Ambassador Kim speaks harsh truths, but they are truths nonetheless. I have served on this council for 40 years, and I have watched this pattern repeat endlessly. Perhaps it is time we listen to young voices, even when they say things we do not wish to hear. Ji-hoon, you cannot seriously support this insubordination, Ambassador Daeho Choi hissed. His serpentine body coiled tightly with tension. I support the truth, Ji-hoon replied. Something this council has forgotten to value. Jiwoo pulled up one final document on the displays. This is Earth's application for council membership from 3 years ago. We were offered a probationary period with restrictions on our trade, our military, and our expansion. The terms were very similar to what you are now offering the Quelon. Do you know what humanity did? He paused for effect. We said no. We told you we would join as full members, or not at all. And you accepted those terms because you had no mechanism to handle our refusal. You could not conquer us militarily without violating your own charters. You could not isolate us economically because we had not yet integrated into your systems. So you backed down. The screens showed Earth's negotiation history with the Council. It was a story of consistent resistance to pressure. The Quelon do not have that option. They are already desperate. You have made sure of that. So they will accept your terms. And they will be destroyed as surely as if you had bombed their worlds from orbit. But it will be legal destruction. Civilized destruction. Destruction. Approved by council vote. Jiwoo looked directly at Councillor Vextar. You asked what makes humanity different. This is what makes us different. We don't pretend that exploitation is protection. We don't dress up theft in beautiful language. When we do terrible things, we at least have the honesty to call them terrible. And when humans do terrible things, you do them with such enthusiasm. Vextar shot back. Your species has a history of war and genocide. Do not lecture us on morality. You're absolutely right, Jiwoo admitted. Humanity has done horrible things. We have fought wars, committed atrocities, destroyed our own planet's environment. We know exactly how terrible we can be. That's why we recognize what you are doing. We've done it ourselves. The difference is, we learned to be ashamed of it. You have made it into official policy. Makesley. 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 We have made it into official policy. The chamber fell silent. Every being present understood that something fundamental had shifted. A line had been crossed that could never be uncrossed. High Chancellor Myersol spoke slowly. Ambassador Kim, you have made serious accusations against this council. You have violated diplomatic protocols. You have exposed classified communications. What do you expect will happen now? Jiwoo straightened his jacket. I expect you will try to punish Earth. I expect you will attempt to isolate us economically and politically. I expect you will make an example of us to prevent others from following our lead. He took a breath. But I also expect that at least some species in this chamber will question the system you have built. I expect that the truth, once spoken, cannot be unspoken. And I expect that the Quelon will survive, because humanity will ensure they receive the aid they need, with or without council approval. He stepped back from the podium. I have said what needed to be said. The council may now do what it will do. But the truth is spoken. You can punish the speaker, but you cannot silence the truth itself. The chamber remained frozen. 47 species, billions of beings represented, all confronted with uncomfortable reality. Then, slowly, the young Quelon delegate in the waiting area stood. The image appeared on every screen. The child looked at the camera with those large, hopeful eyes and smiled. The silence in the council chamber lasted exactly 7 seconds. Then chaos erupted. Councillor Vextar was the first to speak, his forearms striking the air in fury. I demand Ambassador Kim's immediate expulsion from this council. His actions are intolerable. He has violated every protocol, exposed classified information, and insulted the dignity of elder races. 20 voices joined him, all demanding punishment for Earth and its representative. The chamber's translation matrix struggled to keep up with the overlapping shouts and threats. Some called for economic sanctions. Others wanted military action. A few suggested formal investigation and trial, which everyone understood meant imprisonment. But High Chancellor Mirsol raised a limb for silence. The energy being's form pulsed with an emotion Jiwoo couldn't identify. The council will come to order. Ambassador Kim's violations are serious, but we will address them through proper procedures. A vote will be held on sanctions against Earth within 3 days. Jiwoo returned to his seat. Heijin looked at him with concern. That went about as well as expected. Could have been worse. He replied quietly. How? They could have shot me. Sunmi sat behind them, her face pale. Her datapad was lighting up with incoming messages from Earth. Sir, President Kang is requesting immediate communication. Director Baek says your security clearance is under review. Fleet Admiral Song wants authorization to deploy defensive positions. Everyone back home is panicking. Tell them I'll report within the hour. Jiwoo stood. Right now, we have work to do. He walked toward the viewing area where the Quellan delegation waited. The guards at the door tried to block him, but Ambassador Ji-hoon Lee appeared beside him. The elderly Pax Concordia diplomat waved the guards aside. The human wishes to speak with the Quellan. I will escort him. Inside the waiting room, the 3 adult Quellan stood quickly. They were humanoid, in basic shape, but with skin that shifted colors with their emotions. Right now, all 3 displayed patterns of blue and green, which Jiwoo's translator indicated meant hope mixed with fear. The eldest of them stepped forward. Ambassador Kim, we watched your speech. You spoke for us when no one else would. Our people are grateful. Don't be grateful yet, Jiwoo said. I may have made things worse. The council will vote to punish Earth, and you might be caught in the retaliation. The child stepped forward, looking up at him with those large eyes. Are you going to help us anyway? Something about the simple, direct question made Jiwoo smile. Children always cut through complexity to reach the truth. Yes, we are going to help you. Heijin tapped his shoulder. Human transport ships are already entering Quellan space. Fleet Admiral Song deployed them the moment your speech ended. Food, medicine, construction materials, everything we can spare. Without council approval? Jiwoo asked. Without permission from anyone except President Kang. He sent a message that said, and I quote, if we're going to be punished anyway, we might as well do the right thing. Heijin showed him the tactical display. 12 ships, enough supplies for 6 months. There are also 3 destroyer escorts, in case anyone tries to interfere. Back on Earth, President Minho Kang stood in the emergency command center beneath Seoul. Around him, his cabinet argued in heated voices. Some demanded Jiwoo's immediate recall. Others wanted to prepare for war. A few suggested negotiating with the council to minimize damage. Minho listened to all of them, then held up his hand for silence. Ambassador Kim did what was right. He exposed a corrupt system that has victimized dozens of species. Yes, we will pay a price, but we are not going to apologize for telling the truth. Mr. President, the defense minister said urgently, we cannot win a war against the entire council. Our military is strong, but not strong enough to face 46 alien civilizations. Then we will not fight a war. We will simply refuse to back down. Minho activated the communication system that broadcast to every human colony and ship. This is President Kang. You have all heard about Ambassador Kim's speech to the Galactic Council. Some of you are afraid. That is understandable. But I want you to know that Earth stands behind his words. We will face whatever consequences come, but we will do so with our principles intact. The message ended. Around the world, humans listened and chose sides. Some prepared for disaster, others prepared for resistance, but no one suggested surrendering. Back in the council chamber, something unexpected happened. Ambassador Sora Yoon, Earth's representative to the Quellan system, transmitted a live feed. It showed human ships arriving at Quellan worlds, their cargo bays opening to release supplies. Quellan citizens wept as food and medicine flowed out. Human medical teams set up emergency clinics. Engineers began repairing infrastructure damaged by the embargo. The image was broadcast on every council screen. Jiwoo had not ordered this, but he appreciated the timing. Let the galaxy see what humans chose to do when faced with suffering. Then the unexpected support began to arrive. A small species called the Revan announced they were withdrawing from a trade agreement with the Luminar Collective, citing the same exploitative terms Jiwoo had exposed. 3 other species filed formal complaints against elder race corporations. Within hours, a dozen civilizations were demanding investigations into their own agreements with the Council. Ambassador Ji-Hoon Lee approached Jiwoo in a private corridor. You have started something that cannot be stopped. There are many of us who have wanted to challenge the system but lacked the courage. You gave us that courage. How many? Jiwoo asked. Enough to matter. Not enough to win easily, but enough to force change. Ji-Hoon handed him a data chip. This contains contact information for 17 council members who support reform. We have been meeting in secret for years, planning for this moment. We just never expected it would be a human who lit the fire. Director Kyungmin Baek's voice crackled in Jiwoo's earpiece. Ambassador, I have intelligence that suggests the council is fracturing. Some elder races are actually pleased by what you did. They're tired of maintaining the exploitation system but couldn't admit it publicly. You gave them an excuse to change. Which elder races? Jiwoo asked. The Draconids, surprisingly. Counselor Vrex Lak sent a private message to President Kang. It said, approximately translated, that dragons respect courage more than diplomacy. They're prepared to support humanity if we remain firm. Back in the council chamber, emergency sessions continued through the day and into the night. The vote on sanctions against Earth kept being delayed as more species demanded to speak. Some wanted harsh punishment. Others wanted to investigate the charges Jiwoo had made. A few wanted to dissolve the entire council structure and rebuild it. Councillor Vexistar found himself increasingly isolated. Species that had supported him for years now questioned their alliances. Trade agreements were suspended pending review. Corporate contracts were challenged in council courts. The entire system of galactic governance was shaking. In his private chamber, Vextar contacted Ambassador Daeho Choi. This is a disaster. One human speech is unraveling 2,000 years of careful construction. Then we make an example of Earth that no one will forget, Daeho replied. Military action, economic destruction, complete isolation. Show the galaxy what happens to species that challenge the order. But when Vextar tried to organize such action, he found few supporters. The Craner hegemony refused to commit military forces against humans. The Luminar Collective was too busy dealing with rebellions in their own sphere of influence. Other elder races simply stated they needed time to consider. Time was exactly what they did not have. Every hour, more species joined what was being called the Reform Coalition. Every day, more evidence of exploitation was made public. The dam had broken, and the flood could not be stopped. President Kang received an unexpected visitor at Earth's orbital station. Counselor Vrex Lak himself arrived, the ancient Draconid's massive form barely fitting through the human-sized corridors. President Kang, the dragon rumbled. Your ambassador is either the bravest being I have ever met or the most foolish. Perhaps both, Minho replied carefully. I came to tell you that the Draconid sovereignty will not participate in any action against Earth. More than that, we will protect your trade routes and colonies from interference. We do this not out of friendship, for we barely know you. We do this because what your species did needed to be done, and honor demands we support those who speak truth regardless of cost. It was the first crack in the united front against humanity. It would not be the last. By the end of the third day, the vote on sanctions had been postponed indefinitely. The council was too divided to agree on anything. Meanwhile, human ships continued their aid mission to the Quelon worlds. Other species began sending their own support, bypassing council approval entirely. Jiwoo stood in the empty council chamber late at night, looking at the stars through the transparent dome. Heijin joined him. "You did it," she said softly. "You broke their system." "No," Jiwoo corrected. "I just exposed the cracks that were already there. The system broke itself through its own corruption. I just gave people permission to notice. What happens now? Now the real work begins. Truth is easy to speak, but hard to implement." Jiwoo turned away from the stars. "The galaxy needs to rebuild, and we need to make sure it rebuilds into something better." Sunmi rushed in, her face bright with excitement. "Sir, 19 species just submitted a formal proposal to restructure the council. They want new rules, new oversight, new protections for younger species, and they want Earth to help write the new charter." Jiwoo felt exhaustion and hope mixing in equal measure. "Then we better get to work. The galaxy would never be the same." And that was exactly what it needed. 3 months had passed since the speech that changed everything. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. The old seating arrangement that placed elder races at the center had been dismantled. New sections accommodated a reformed assembly where every species, regardless of age or power, held equal position. Chancellor Yoonji Park stood at the central podium, not as Earth's representative, but as the elected overseer of the reformed council. Her selection had been unanimous among the 32 species that formed the new governing coalition. The elder races that refused to accept reform had withdrawn to form their own separate alliance, taking 15 species with them. The galaxy was divided, but the division was honest rather than hidden. Unji activated the chamber's display systems. Today marks the official implementation of the Quelon Recovery Project. I am pleased to report that starvation on their worlds has been reduced by 95%. Medical care has been established in every major population center. Educational programs are being developed by the Quelon themselves, for themselves, with advisory support from 12 different species. The Quelon delegate, the same child who had watched Jiwoo's speech 3 months ago, now stood as a junior observer. The young being had grown stronger, healthier. The colors shifting across their skin showed confidence mixed with gratitude. Ambassador Seo Jun-han sat in Earth's delegation section, having replaced Jiwoo as humanity's primary representative. He was younger than his predecessor, only 35. But he had learned from Jiwoo's example. Speak truth clearly. Act with principle. Never apologize for doing what is right. Chancellor Park, Sojun said, standing to address the assembly. Earth would like to propose extending the recovery model used for the Quelon to 3 other species currently under exploitative agreements. The Velix, the Thune, and the Korthan have all requested assistance in renegotiating their status. Councillor Vrexlak, the Draconid elder, rumbled his approval. The sovereignty supports this measure. It is time to repair the damage of centuries, not merely halt new exploitation. Ambassador Ji-hoon Lee nodded. The Pax Concordia has been working with these species to document their situations. The evidence is clear. Their current agreements trap them in permanent servitude. This must end. Not everyone agreed. A representative from the Luminar Collective, now part of the separate Elder Alliance, transmitted a message from their distant chamber. You call it reform. We call it chaos. The old system maintained stability for thousands of years. What you are building will collapse into disorder and conflict. Unji responded calmly. Stability built on injustice is not true stability. It is merely delayed explosion. We choose honest difficulty over dishonest peace. The vote passed with overwhelming support. 3 more species would be freed from the contracts that had bound them. Far from the council chamber, on a quiet farm on Earth's southern continent, Jiwoo worked in his garden. He had retired from diplomatic service immediately after his famous speech, returning to the simple life he had always preferred. But his work continued through others. Captain Heejin Park visited him regularly, bringing news from the council and from Earth's expanding role in galactic affairs. Today, she arrived with a datapad full of updates. "The Korthans sent you a message," she said, sitting on his porch. "Their civilization is recovering faster than anyone expected. They want to name their first post-recovery colony world after you." Jiwoo laughed. "Tell them I am honored, but I would prefer they name it after themselves. This is their victory, not mine. They say you gave them hope when they had none." Heijin showed him images of Korthan cities being rebuilt, their economy restructuring away from elder race control. 230 years they suffered. Now they are free. "Freedom is only the beginning," Jiwoo said, returning to his plants. "The hard part is building something worth keeping." Back at the council, the work continued. Commander Boram Shin stood before a joint assembly of military leaders from 19 different species. She commanded the new Mutual Defense Initiative, a coalition force designed to protect younger species from aggression while they developed independence. "Our mission is not conquest or control," Boram explained, showing tactical displays. "We respond only when requested. We provide training and support, not occupation. Any species in our protection can ask us to leave at any time. And we will leave immediately." 1. Awe. It was a radical departure from the old system, where protection meant permanent military presence and loss of sovereignty. Several elder race observers watched skeptically, waiting for the humans to reveal their true imperialist intentions. But months passed, and those intentions never appeared. The Quellan system became the test case for everything the reform movement hoped to achieve. Human engineers worked alongside Quellan builders to construct new infrastructure. Medical teams from 7 different species collaborated on healthcare systems. Educational advisors helped design schools that taught Quellan children their own history and culture, not propaganda from foreign powers. Most importantly, the Quellan maintained complete control of their resources. They sold minerals at fair market prices and used the profits to build their civilization according to their own vision. It was messy and inefficient compared to elder race management. It was also genuine freedom. Ambassador Sora Yoon, who had coordinated much of the Quellan recovery, sent regular reports to Earth. Her latest message included video of Quellan children playing in parks that hadn't existed 4 months ago, of hospitals treating patients who would have died under the embargo, of farms producing food instead of being controlled by foreign agricultural corporations. "This is what success looks like," Sora wrote. "Not perfect, not efficient, but real and honest, and built on consent rather than exploitation." President Minho Kang read these reports in his office in Seoul. The past 3 months had been difficult for Earth. The Elder Alliance had imposed trade restrictions and blocked human ships from certain regions of space. Economic damage was significant. Several human colonies faced supply shortages, but support from the Reform Coalition had prevented total isolation. The Draconids especially had been generous with their trade routes and protection. Species freed from exploitative contracts remembered who had helped them and returned that help with fierce loyalty. Was it worth it? His defense minister asked during a cabinet meeting. Minho looked at the images from Quellan worlds, at the faces of beings who now had a chance to determine their own future. Yes. Whatever the cost, this was worth it. In the council chamber, Unji was establishing new precedents every day. She had instituted a simple rule that Jiwoo would have appreciated. All council proceedings were now public. No more secret negotiations. No more private deals made in shadowed rooms. Everything was recorded and broadcast to every member species. Transparency creates accountability, she told the assembly. We will make mistakes. We will have disagreements. But we will do so in the open, where everyone can see and judge our actions. This rule alone transformed galactic politics. Counselors who had spent careers perfecting the art of doublespeak now had to say clearly what they intended. It was uncomfortable and messy, but it was honest. The Quellan child, now serving as a junior observer, approached Yunji after a session. Chancellor Park, I want to thank you. And I want to thank Ambassador Kim. Is he coming back to the council? Yunji smiled. No. He prefers his garden. But he watches everything we do. And he's proud of all of you. Will you tell him something for me? Of course. Tell him that when I grow up, I want to be a diplomat who speaks truth like he did. I want to help other species the way he helped us. Yunji felt tears forming. I will tell him. And I know he will be honored. That evening, she sent the message to Jiwoo. His response came quickly. Tell that child they are already a better diplomat than I ever was. They understand that truth is not about grand speeches. It is about daily commitment to honesty, even in small things, especially in small things. The reform movement faced constant challenges. The Elder Alliance attempted to undermine the new council through economic pressure and political manipulation. 12 species withdrew from the Reform Coalition, finding the new transparency too demanding. Internal conflicts erupted between members with different visions for the future. But the movement survived because it was built on something the old system never had. Genuine consent. Species participated because they wanted to, not because they were forced or manipulated. When problems arose, they were discussed openly and resolved through actual negotiation rather than hidden coercion. 6 months after Jiwoo's speech, Ambassador Sojun Han stood before the council with a proposal. Earth suggests we formalize our core principle in the council charter. One sentence that defines everything we are trying to build. He displayed the text on every screen. In this chamber, we speak truth, or we do not speak at all. On and round. The vote was unanimous among all 32 Reform Coalition members. The phrase was inscribed in every language above the chamber entrance. It served as reminder and challenge to everyone who entered. Jiwoo watched the vote from his farm, transmitted live on his old data pad. Heijin sat with him, sharing tea, as the sun set over Earth's mountains. You did good, she said quietly. I spoke some words. Others did the hard work of making them mean something. He paused. That's always the way, isn't it? Anyone can tell the truth. The real courage is in living it every day afterward. Then humanity is learning courage, Heijin replied. We're not perfect. We still make mistakes. But we're trying to be honest about our failures as well as our successes. In the Quellan system, the child who had inspired Jiwoo's determination now attended a new school built by their own people. They studied mathematics and science, art and philosophy. They learned about the galaxy's history, including the dark chapters of exploitation and the recent chapters of reform. Their teacher asked them to write about a hero they admired. The child wrote about Ambassador Jiwoo Kim, but not for his famous speech. Instead, they wrote about what came after. Ambassador Kim spoke the truth when it was hard, the child wrote in their own language. But then he went home and let others continue the work. That shows real wisdom. Heroes do not have to be perfect or stay forever. They just have to be honest when it matters, and then trust others to carry forward what they started. The teacher displayed this essay to the class as an example of mature thinking. She sent a copy to Earth, hoping Jiwoo might see it. He did, and he placed it on his wall next to his farming tools. A reminder that truth plants seeds that others will harvest. The galaxy continued to turn. The reform movement grew stronger. New species joined, drawn by the promise of honest cooperation. The Elder Alliance remained powerful but increasingly isolated. Their exploitation model, no longer accepted, as normal. And in council chambers across the galaxy, diplomats stood to speak with a new understanding. Truth might be uncomfortable. It might create conflict. It might cost them power and position, but lies cost far more in the end. And the galaxy was learning, slowly and painfully, to value honesty over comfort. That was Jiwoo's true legacy. Not a speech, but a choice. A choice made by thousands of beings across hundreds of worlds. The choice to speak truth, even when silence would be easier. The choice to build a civilization worthy of the name.